Welcome to week 2 of Kinesiology 792A, Practicum and Physical Education 1. This is Jim Ave, and hopefully week 1 wasn't too bad. Last week you wrote your introduction and executive summary drafts for the professional portfolio. This week I'll read your first drafts and give you feedback on those. I expect you to make changes that I have provided you in my feedback by the time you turn in your second draft. And in this week, you're going to write your rough draft, your draft for the artifacts section. And so, what does that mean? What is an artifact? An artifact is just something that demonstrates you are actually meeting that particular standard or domain. So, this is probably the one section that students can have the most difficult understanding what is expected. Not sure why, so hopefully I can clarify this. So I'll try to take the 3 different areas individually. So for a PE teacher, what you want to turn in for your artifact is a lesson plan that demonstrates that you are meeting that particular standard number 1. And not only should it meet the standard, it should also meet the appropriate grade level outcomes for whatever level, what grade you teach. So if you're a 6th grade teacher, that lesson should meet the specific grade level outcomes for grade 6. So that's your artifact. Okay. Now for coaches, you're going to find an artifact that demonstrates that you are satisfying domain 1 as a whole. You don't need an artifact for each one of the standards. This is where a lot of the coaches get kind of confused. That they think that you need a total of 4 artifacts. That's not true. You just need one artifact that demonstrates that you are meeting domain 1, philosophy and ethics. To me, the artifact that meets this particular domain is your coaching philosophy statement. If you haven't developed one, it'd be a good time to develop one, because you will eventually develop one in our Kinesiology 730 class, but you should develop one that satisfies this particular standard or domain. Strength and conditioning individuals, your standard is pre-participation screening and clearances. Do you have a form that either student athletes, clients have to complete before they can even start their exercise program? That's a good artifact. Okay, that's just artifact. That's not you'll place your actual artifact in the appendix. Let me get to your professional portfolio template here. You'll actually place, let me scroll all the way to the end, your artifact in the appendix A of the document. The artifact should not be in the body of the paper. It should be in appendix A, whatever that artifact is. So the first step is finding the artifact. Scroll, sorry if this makes you sick. The next part, and probably the more challenging part, is the write-up. This section should be 2 to 3 pages in length, okay? 2 to 3 pages in length at minimum. And here you explain what is your artifact, why you selected artifact, explain in clear detail how it meets the domain or standard that you are focusing on. Now, let me say something about this, especially with the coaches, but this is true for the other ones. You don't have to explain how it satisfies each standard in the domain. That gets kind of tedious. You can hit on that this artifact demonstrates that I am meeting standard number 3 because blah, 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 blah. Then explain it. I want you to focus the majority of your time on the domain as a whole instead of each specific standard within that coaching domain. Again, when you're writing this section, do not assume that me, the reader, knows anything about anything. Explain it in such a way that I'll be able to understand the standard and the artifact that you are providing. Some things that I've noticed over the years with teaching this course is that students just don't provide enough detail why the artifact demonstrates, let's call it demonstrate your mastery of that standard or domain. How does it show that you are actually meeting the standard domain at your job? So be very specific with that. Be clear and stay focused just on that one particular standard or that particular domain. I realized that last week in my presentation, one thing I forgot to discuss, I mentioned it, but I never really discussed it, is the rubric for this assignment. So in the class, I asked you last week to download the rubric. So here's a rubric that you can read on. I could go over in detail that I'll use to actually assess your professional portfolio. And you'll see that the executive summary or the content standard descriptions is worth 5 points. The artifact section is worth 40 points. If you don't provide an artifact, that is automatic 0 on this assignment for this particular section because you didn't provide an artifact. That's the majority of this area. And the reflection, which we'll do next week, is another 40 points. 10 points is if it's your writing and your organization, and 5 points is APA formatting. I forgot to cover that last week, but I wanted to make sure I covered it this week. If you're unsure about, and this is going to happen through the course, you're unsure about something being a good artifact, you can post it in the Q&A forum because other students may have the exact same question as you, and I'll give you my feedback if I think that is a good artifact. Usually one of the things I'll say is in your description here in your professional portfolio, can you make the case that this actual artifact satisfies that standard or domain? And lastly, follow the formatting that is in the template and get rid of all the other material that's in the template. And this week, just turn in your title page, update your table of contents, update your introduction if I ask you to make any changes to it, update your executive summary if I've asked you to make any changes to that, and provide this section, the artifact section, with your appropriate section title, the reference page, then the appendix A, and which includes your actual artifact.